Good day, this is James Spencer from Spencer Music and Artist Development, located in Long Beach, California, and I am also a music professor for London College of Music. And today I'm putting together a little video for those that might be looking to pursue a degree in music but are concerned about the incredibly rising costs of the education system. And London College of Music is a really wonderful, great alternative for many reasons. We do offer full degrees. The first, we have performance diplomas in music, what is called the associate's degree, the licentiate degree, and the fellowship degree. They're similar to bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, slightly different on the European system, but are definitely internationally recognized degrees and have a lot of great opportunities to study music privately and to get your degree. So a little bit about me, specifically what I do, is as a London College professor myself, I am able to offer grades and degrees specifically in piano performance, which would mean classical performance or more jazz pop performance, voice, which would mean classical voice and opera, musical theater degrees, or pop, rock, jazz vocals, okay? And then also I do composition and film scoring and music theory, and then I also do musicology, which would be music history, okay? And so what's really great about London College and the way this is offered is that you can study in your own leisure with a private professor, do the coursework, do the appropriate testing, performances, juries, portfolio submissions, depending on what you're working on, and do this literally at a minimal cost and in your own leisure compared to moving away, being at a university for 5 years and so forth. So what I want to do is talk about 10 reasons to consider a music degree through London College. I'll try to answer all the questions that I receive from people, and then you're welcome at the end of this video. I will put up my website as well as my phone number. You're welcome to contact me, and I will also put up links to London College themselves so you can actually look at syllabuses and see what they offer. Okay, so let's get right to work. Thank you. Okay, so number one, let's talk about the cost of schooling. As you know, through the U.S., university education is becoming extremely expensive, specifically in the state of California. I had posted estimated costs for the year 2017 to 2018 season. USC is $50,000 a year, and that doesn't necessarily even include your room and board. So my gosh, it is what, $200,000 to $250,000 to get a bachelor's at USC. Now, yes, some people might qualify for scholarships and things, but that's a heck of a lot of money. And what happens with a lot of people is they take out student loans, they're paying it off for 10 to 20 years. They never get out from under that. So if you have the money to go to USC, it's a phenomenal school. In fact, I personally studied with professors at USC myself when I was getting my degrees. But it's, you know, as we continue through life here, it's becoming less and less of a possibility for a lot of graduating high school students. So USC, again, about $50,000 a year. University of California systems, UCI, UC Santa Barbara, are running about $32,000 to $35,000 a year. Again, to get a bachelor's degree, you're looking at least 4 years, if not 5 years. So that's, again, a heck of a lot of money. You know, Cal State systems, such as Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Fullerton, have jumped up to about $20,000. When I was in school back in the 90s, it was about $12,000. So the increase of $8,000 a year is quite a bit within you know, about a 15-year period. So it's continuing to rise, and they even estimate by 2020, you know, tuition's going to even go up another few thousand. So they're estimating that, you know, Cal State systems can be $25,000 to $26,000 a year by the year 2020. So this is obviously a very discouraging thing to what I would call the millennials, you know, the students now graduating from high school, and an incredible burden on parents. Okay, so let's look at London College. Now, in London College, you only pay for the private study tuition of the professor you're working with. Okay, and usually what most teachers that do this in the U.S. request is about working with that teacher at least 5 hours a week and whatever their fees are. So my fees for that run about $600 a month. That's kind of what you're looking at. And a lot of people say, well, that seems like a lot, but you're moving at your own rate and a lot faster, so that means you can complete the degree of like a 4 or 5 year degree in 1 year if you choose. I recently had a student that completed the associate's degree in composition in only 8 months. And his actual cost for everything for his degree was only $7,000 for the whole degree. That's still under even 1 year at a Cal State system. Okay. Now, of course, with London, it's going to vary in what you pay depending on what your major is. If you are in performance, you will be required at the end of the degree to go to a U.S. test center to do your performance testing, or what we call your music jury. That's where you would give your graduation recital and be adjudicated by the London professors. Now, those costs usually for the exam are $1,000 to $2,000 depending on what degree, and your out-of-state cost to go for 1 weekend. But that's not that bad. So you might be looking at average might be $3,000 if you're in performance. So then if you add everything up, usually that's still under $10,000 for the whole degree. Now, if you happen to be composition or musicology, all you do is submit. So you don't have to even leave the state. You can basically just work with me or, you know, a London professor, and then submit your music writing portfolio or your thesis, pay the fee for that, you're done. So a lot less complicated, a lot less red tape, really great opportunity. The other thing is in university systems, what happens a lot of times classes that you might need to graduate are only offered every couple of years. This is what happened to me. I mean, I loved my education I got at Cal State Fullerton when I got my bachelor's and master's there. And I loved my teachers. I learned a lot, but I had to wait a whole year because I needed one class that wasn't offered. And here I am waiting to get my degree, and my degree dragged on for my bachelor's into 5 years instead of 4 years. And that cost me more money, okay, where I could have been just graduated. So this kind of red tape, unfortunately, happens in university systems, and specifically in California. Okay, not to mention that to even get into a degree program in the university systems of California, you have to go through the other red tape. You have to have high SATs. You have to do all this general ed for 2 years, which are classes you took in high school, right? So, you know, do you really want to, like, if you're a music major, do you really want to take trigonometry, calculus, or a class you're probably never ever going to use in your life, and waste all that money and time when you can just be working on your degree? That was my frustration when I went through schooling, is all the general ed I had to do, and I had to take classes that I felt were completely irrelevant to my music degree, you know. And I'm not saying that it's not good to be well-rounded, but you know, if you took those classes in high school, why take them again? That's my thought, okay? And everybody's different on that, but that's my thought. So, you know, and what ends up happening too, which I feel is a dead end, is a lot of college students or high school students going into college say, well, I'll just go to a community college first. And then that actually ends up costing them more money in the long run, because the community college make you take all that general ed, and to get what's called an Associate of Arts degree, which is usually 2 to 2.5 years before you even transfer into a university to finish your degree. And this can cause students, bachelors, to drag into 6 years of just money and time and, you know, driving to school or living on campus and all of this, what I call drama, that you don't need. Okay, so that's the first major point of London College of Music, is it is highly cost effective. And again, I'm relatively new to offering the university degrees for London College. This would be my second year of doing that, so I've only had about 4 or 5 students so far that have gone through this process. But all of them, I will guarantee, their whole degree was under $10,000 compared to, again, the Cal State, the University of California systems, USC private schools. And one I also left out is music institutes, like MIT, those kind of music industry institutes now are up to $20,000 a year as well. Let's move on to the second point. Okay, so number 2 is really my favorite, and that is, instead of being a number in the university system where you go off to a lecture class of another, you know, sitting in a big auditorium with 70 people, you're a number, the professors rarely get to know you, you try to ask a question and, you know, the class is moving fast, you know, you don't feel you're getting everything you need. But with London College of Music, you're working one-on-one with that professor on usually a daily, or maybe it's usually like 2 to 3 times a week basis, at your leisure and in the privacy of that instructor's home. So it's a much more laid-back process, much more relaxed. I thought about when I was at Cal State Fullerton. I lived in Huntington Beach at the time, and I had to get up at 6 o'clock every morning, drive, you know, an hour on the freeway and all that rush hour traffic to get to class by 8, be there all day to sometimes even 10 o'clock at night if I was in an opera production or doing a concert or so forth. And then drive home, you know, now, obviously in the evening the traffic was less, so I might take a half hour to get home, but still getting home at 10:30, having to do homework, you know, staying up till 1 in the morning, and then being back on the road by 6 in the morning. It's insane. And it's not good for people's health, and I've seen this happen where a lot of kids just, you know, they get stressed, they get sick, that, you know. What's great about this is to be able to work with a professor, have that professor learn all about how you learn, your specific learning style. Are you auditory? Are you a visual learner? What areas do you have a talent in, and what areas are you're weak, so you can focus on those and move quickly at your speed. What's also great about this is a lot of people are trying to finance their education, so it's hard for kids to have to work full-time, have 2 jobs, and try to go to school. It's almost impossible for most people. What's nice about this is this can be worked around you, not the other way around. When I was in school, I had to completely modify my work all the time to whatever my classes were, and that is always a pain in the butt and difficult. When I was in college, I was a music director of a church. I taught privately, and I was a jazz artist playing in clubs. So trying to juggle all of that was a nightmare. Okay, and when you're in LCM, it's so much easier. And you can, and if you're a morning person, you can set up morning classes with your professor. If you're an evening person and that professor is available in the evening, you can work those kind of things out. So it's much more user-friendly, so to speak, much more laid back, and you're getting that one-on-one, which I believe students really need to master the arts. You're having that one-on-one with that professor through the week. Okay, so I feel that's really important, and I think a lot of students want that. They want to be able to feel they have a mentor that they can work with, and they're going to be heard. And they're going to be able to get feedback regularly. Usually with the London College professors that do this, like myself, is we're also available not only in person, but we check in with each other with Skype, we're emailing back and forth, texting, that kind of thing. So you always feel you have that support in your education, which I feel is so important. Okay, let's move on to number 3. Okay, number 3 I also feel is incredibly, incredibly important, which is one reason I chose to become a London College music professor. Many California university systems are excellent in teaching music, okay, but we have to face it. If you want a living, okay, you need to know the business of music. This is what's really, truly amazing for what I experienced personally through the Cal State system. Again, I got both a bachelor's and a master's through the Cal State system, and I had literally not one course in how to get an agent, how to do a studio policy to open up a music school, how to be self-employed, how to take tax write-offs, how to do websites and portfolio media, how to get an album on the radio, on and on. And it was amazing that I saw so many people getting masters and doctorates from award-winning schools like USC, and literally getting out, and a lot of them waiting tables, and they spent just insane amount of money on their education, $200,000 on their education and their waiting tables. Ridiculous, in my opinion. And it actually, I'm going to say it because I'm blunt, it pisses me off. And what I love about London is what we do is we're going to empower our students to understand the industry. So it's a requirement with me that you are going to be learning all of that, and you'll be required to invest in that. So one thing that I believe all my musicians that study with me are going to need is a working website portfolio. So that means if you're a performer, you're going to have a website where people can find you, where you develop a fan base, where you have albums, which I work on with my clients, where we get you international recognition so you can start a career. If you want to be a private teacher, I show my students, how do you learn the laws of your state? How do you set up a studio policy? How do you get students? If you are in musical theater, how do you make a living doing that. How do you find the best theaters to work with? I work with my students on how do you get into cruise ship work? How do you work for Disneyland and other places like that? So you could develop, a good career. And it's amazing that they really don't go over that in the university systems. I purposely, before I put this video together, I literally sat down with professors I know, their curriculums in the universities, and within California there's very few schools that really even get into that. It's amazing to me. Some of the music institutes are a little bit better, I do have to admit. Like MIT, some of them get into music production, doing albums, those kind of things, but not all schools. So you're really at a disadvantage, and that's something to consider because, again, LCM, you're going to get that. Not to mention with LCM, you are developing international connections because obviously if you do well on your degrees and your grades and you get distinction or high distinction marks, then London takes notice of that, and that also offers you opportunities through scholarship to go over to London to learn about the European industry. And if you're a performer, you're making international connections. That's pretty smart, isn't it? Right? Okay. So also opens up travel, if you choose, so that's another very important thing. So I truly believe that London College can offer you more in that regard. And I think it is, again, so important that you're working with what is called artist development. That's what I am, an artist developer that is going to show you how to market yourself and how to be entrepreneurial. I have found personally that I tell my clients that I hate to say this, I love high school and elementary education, but let's face it, there's not money in it, and it's sad. And I see so many people that go, to a Cal State system to teach in the high schools or whatever. They get out, they're barely making even $30,000 a month, or they're having to work 3 high schools because there's the music budget cuts and all of that crap. And then those that open up their own businesses and have their own schools actually can teach the way they want. They can affect the community greater, and they can set their own hours and not have to worry about all of that red tape that often happens in Cal State systems, in the school systems. And it's sad but that's just reality, people, and it's something to think about because a lot of kids that are, really great people, they want to teach, they want to, support the arts, and then they're in for that rude awakening. They spent, whatever it is, $100,000 or more on their, $1,000 on their degree. They get out, they can barely find a job. I have friends I know, they're working 3 and 4 colleges just to make ends meet, and driving all over the county just trying to survive, basically. That's no way to live the rest of your life. You want to be empowered. You want to be able to set your own hours, work when you want, have time to be creative, to do your projects, to perform, to do what you love, right? So that's one thing I feel London offers that a lot of schools don't. Let's move on to the next one. Thanks. Okay, another really awesome aspect of private instruction through London College of Music is that you can move at your own pace. Now, what tends to happen in universities is there's always going to be things that come easy to you and classes that are harder. But, you have to keep those grades up. In fact, a lot of Cal State systems are like, if you get under a certain grade point average, you're thrown out of the music school. Cal State Fullerton, where I went, you had to keep, like a 3.6 if I remember, or above to stay within that music program. So let's say you're just, something happens. You get sick, you have a bad semester, you get a couple of C's. Now your whole schooling can be affected by that. But if you are privately studying with someone through London College of Music, if you're having problems with something, you just go at your own rate until you learn it. So there's a lot less stress in that. You test when you're ready instead of you have an exam on this exact day and let's say you have the flu and you feel like crap, you have to be there. And if you miss that exam, guess what? You don't graduate. You know, you have to take that class over. This happens so often, even for kids that are working extremely hard. I'll share something that happened with me. It was 1992, I believe, and it was the end of my bachelor's program, and I was required, I was doing a double major in vocal performance and piano performance, and I was required to be in an opera production. And there was that year a mononucleosis epidemic that was going around the school, and guess what happened? I got mono. And then I had worked the whole semester to be in that opera production, and I did like one performance and had 104 fever and couldn't complete it, you know. And that I had to take it incomplete. It created all these problems, you know. So what's great about London College is, again, you move through the classes you'll be studying with that professor at your own rate. And that professor's going to know you well enough to say, okay, now you're ready to submit your portfolio or to do your final performance, or you're not ready yet. And so what's great about that is you're getting the feedback from the professors before you even do your exam. And that's so important because now you know exactly where you are. You know if you're going to get an A before you do it. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, that takes so much pressure off the whole system, you know. And yes, you're going to have to do things that you will have to do in a university. Meaning, if you're a performance major, you're going to have to do a final performance, what's called a defense, where you have to talk about your program, the history of that. You might have theory testing and things, but again, you have that option with your professor to prepare for that. Another thing that you have, which is very nice, is all of those professors and deans and stuff from London are readily available by email. There's syllabuses, there's online stuff, so you can always get answers you need. Where a lot of times when I was having challenges on, can I take this class at a university, I would have to wait, 5 weeks to talk to the dean, all of that junk. One thing that happened too is I had something where the dean approved me on a class I wanted to take. I wanted to take a jazz history class because I play jazz. And I was told that that was fine for my degree. It turns out it wasn't. So then I get ready to graduate and they're telling me you're 3 units short. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was told by the dean I could do this. And they were wrong. And so I had to spend an extra semester and pay another, I think it was another $7,000. And to me, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm going to just say it like it is, So, what's great about this is, you go at your own rate, okay? And then also the teachers are modifying what you need to your needs, okay? Let's move on. Okay, when I was in the university system, one thing I found at times incredibly irritating is that when you're in a university, you are molded as an artist to what those professors in that university know and what is required of you. So here's something like, for example, I had to do a master's thesis, and I was very interested in the music of Kurt Weill. Okay, he was a German composer in the Weimar Republic right around the time that Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, and I found that whole period very interesting because he wrote these incredible operas that are not being performed, and the reason why is they were banned and things. And so I thought that would be a very interesting topic for my master's thesis. So I went to my dean to approve that, and he goes, Weill is not a viable composer. And I'm like, what? I mean, my gosh, he wrote operas, he wrote, Threepenny Opera, he wrote Broadway musicals. You're telling me he's not a viable composer? And I went through a whole year of red tape trying to get approval to do what I wanted to study. And here's the thing, you're an artist. So maybe you're a composer and you have your own style of writing. Well, what if you're in a university and that school's saying you need to write in this style only? And you will mold to what we want, and if you don't, we're not giving you a grade. Well, that's very limiting, and very academic and very square. And that's why I also see a lot of performers coming out of schools being sort of what I call one-dimensional. They can do one thing. They might be a great Mozart player. Well, that's wonderful. I adore Mozart myself, but sorry about that, phone was ringing. I love Mozart, but what if you want to do classical and jazz? I ran into that when I was in college. They say you cannot do jazz, you will do this. And that is very, very limiting. And, maybe you're a musical theater artist that wants to also do opera. Maybe you're a pianist that is interested in new age music. Maybe you want to do electronica music, and the school's composition says we don't do that. We do orchestration and classical. What's nice about LCM is you will get a well-rounded education, but you will also be able to focus on things you're interested in and to specialize and get better in those things that matter to you. And that's important because, I feel that if you have that opportunity to do what you love, then you're going to be a well-rounded, successful artist. I had to push for all of that through my education. I wanted to, for example, in classical piano, I wanted to be a French specialist. I wanted to also do harpsichord. I wanted to also do jazz. And I had to always fight and push for, to get, the opportunities to do that when I was in school. And, also, here's another thing. Let's say you are a singer, and let's say that teacher you're studying with happens to be, only a specialist in German repertoire. Maybe their specialty is Schubert, Schumann, Wagner, doesn't matter. And let's say that you're not interested in that. Let's say, I want to do musical theater. Well, if you're with that one teacher for 4 years and all they're teaching you is Schubert, well, I love Schubert, but, you're not becoming well-rounded. That is one of my feelings can be a downfall in a university system. Not to say that they're all bad, but I'm just saying that tends to happen, and it's something you might want to think about. So again, London College offers you that opportunity to mold your degree to your specific interests. Okay, let's move on. Okay, here's something for those that are composer-songwriters or want to be musicologists and to get a degree. All that's required for London College for those specific degrees is private study and your final submission. That's it. You don't have to do any traveling. You're just paying for your private instruction with that professor until you're ready to submit. And then your submission fees. So this is really easy ways to get degrees. Okay, you just want to be able to look at, well, what are you going to do after you graduate? So here's the deal, though. If you want to be a industry composer, that means a composer that's maybe a film score with a company, writing for video games, writing high school show arrangements, those kind of things. You do not need to go through a university system to be able to do that in the industry. All they're looking at is talent and your portfolio. So it's a very quick way to get a degree. In fact, believe it or not, I have a 17-year-old kid who's still in high school that's already got his degree because he just did it in his spare time. Amazing, huh? That's pretty amazing. A 17-year-old who's already has scored for film. That's pretty amazing in my opinion. That could be you. You know, that's really cool. The other thing is, let's say you're more of a musicologist. Well, here's the deal. If you want to teach in a Cal State school, if you want to teach high school, if you want to teach university, yes, you indeed need to go through the university system. But let's say you're a musicologist and you're like, okay, I want to write books. I want to, do things, I want to be self-employed. Then you don't need that university degree. Okay, but you can still get a degree. So what I usually recommend is, just like if you were in a university, you would take a major and a minor within music. Like, for example, I had a double major in piano and voice, but I had my minor in musicology. So what I usually recommend to my students in London College is to, for example, major in composition in a specific area, like composition, film scoring, composition, music industry, songwriting, that kind of thing, and then minor in musicology. Or maybe, here's another example, maybe you're a musical theater vocalist that wants to do theater and acting and all that. So you major in musical theater, but maybe you minor in jazz pop vocal performance, because then that opens up other doors. You could be doing shows, singing in a hotel, doing albums, teaching, doing a little bit of everything, and make a very good living for yourself. Okay, so that's another option. Maybe you're opera and classical. So what a lot of people I tell do is like major in classical voice, minor in music education pedagogy, which will teach you how to open up your own studio and be entrepreneurial, for example. So this is what's so cool about London, is that you can really focus on different aspects of what you want to do. I had a guy that is considering this currently, and he comes to me and he says, well, I want to get a degree in composition, but I'm more interested in electronic music, and I want to learn how to DJ. And I said, you can do that. I could teach you that, and send you out to some local recording studios that are part of my education, and you can work there and start apprenticing in a recording studio, get this, and learn how to DJ, and get your degree in composition. So what's really cool is London allows you to really mold to what your interests are. I love that. And it's all one-on-one on top of that. Let's move on. Okay, another really great aspect of London College of Music is the opportunity, if you choose, to do some travel. Now, if you are going to be a performance major and are applying for the ALCM, the LLCM, or the FLCM, then you will have to go test either in London or at a U.S. test center. Now, of course, to save money, you have that option to go to a U.S. test center, and there are several that I recommend. There's about, currently right now, 4 test centers in the U.S. One is, here's the cities. It's in New Jersey, there's one in Georgia, there's one in Tennessee, and there's one in Texas. And that gives you a nice, leisurely opportunity to do a little bit of U.S. travel. Cost effective. So for example, from California to go to the Tennessee or the Austin test center, well, Austin's only 3 hours. It's JetBlue. It's a cheap trip. You go out for the weekend, you take your test on one day, you go have a little mini vacation, you're done. And you use that opportunity, which I prepare my students to make networking connections. Here's an example of that. So I have currently a high school student who's very talented that wants to be a country western performer. And he hasn't done the degree yet. He's about what would be called grade 6 or grade 7 of the pop, and country music curriculum for grades. Well, he decided that he wanted to go get some experience and check out Nashville. So we set him up to go do his performance at the Tennessee Center. He went out with his family for a week. He did very, very well in his testing, had an incredible fun experience, went to Nashville, got to go to the Grand Ole Opry. He said it was life-changing for him. He says, I know what I want to do now. You know, like when I graduate from high school, I want to start looking to move out there and get my career going. But he already has the connections in high school. How cool is that? And and a lot of times this happens where we're in high school going into college and we're stuck in that university and we don't have that opportunity to go see where we want to live in the world. Personally, for example, when I was in high school, I was doing international piano competitions. I was accepted to Juilliard and some of the big schools. And then I had an opportunity to go check out those areas and go, you know what? New York is a great place, but I'm not a New York person. I'm a tropical person. I was born in Florida. I like to live in a beach city. I like warm weather. I don't like the cold. That's just me. You know, so I realized that, you know, New York wasn't right for me. And if you have the opportunity during your studies with London College to, you know, go take a trip to, you know, Tennessee, to New York, to a place you might be considering, you're not going to make a major life mistake. I've had people that say, I want to be on Broadway, I want to be on Broadway. They go through the school degree, then they get out to New York, and they go, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody. I've had students that have gone through Cal State systems, university systems, or studies with me that love New York and have made great careers for themselves. But it's about, you know, you have this opportunity to find out before you're done. That's important. You also, if you do well in distinction, what a lot of people do is maybe do their first degree privately, and then when they go for their advanced degree, they actually go study in London. And you'll have these opportunities to develop these scholarships and opportunities so you can experience that if that's something you might be interested in. London is an incredible city, especially for artists. You know, we have the West End specifically is the second largest theater district in the world. So if you are an opera singer or a musical theater person, that might be really viable for you to go experience that. And then London College there is, you know, they have a lot of recording studios, things in the industry where they start connecting their students. That's what I like about this too, is you have these opportunities you might not get. And since you're not putting as much money into your education, it saves you money so you can do that. Because what if you were, you know, spending $60,000 a year on your education and then you decide, oh, you know, I kind of want to go travel for a little bit, you know, you probably can't afford it. But this is very doable. Another thing, here's another example. I have students that start their degree, they do part of that, then are like, okay, I want to get some life experience. I'm just going to go perform on a cruise ship for a year and save up some money, and they go travel and experience that and then come back and finish their degree. So these create all these other options that other schools don't have. Okay, so if you want to travel, there's that opportunity through London. Let's move on. Okay, one thing I really love about London College is this ability to learn how to create passive income and how to make money while you're in school. One thing a lot of people don't understand is that your education can be a tax write-off. What that means is that anything that you invest into what's going to be your career is tax deductible. So a lot of people, you know, go to school and they don't ever think that they can actually write off their education. Okay, so I show how to do that with my students. So that means like you might have to take out, let's say, a $10,000 loan to complete your LCM education, but you can write it off and get the money back quickly. We also teach how to create passive income. This means that, you know, I teach my students that are performers how to do albums, how to write books and be self-published, how to create product, and how to do that cost effectively. To give you an idea, most most studios in California charge about $100 to $150 an hour to record an album. And you have, with a minimum of 3 hours. That means it's usually about $500 a day to record an album. My students can record an album for only $50 an hour. And my studio is located close to my home. It's convenient. And they have that opportunities that when you're in a university, you're in school, you do not have the time to do these things or to even learn about them. The other thing is when you're with an industry artist, then you're connected. That means, like, I'm having a student right now who is a jazz pianist who has actually decided to go to a university in Charleston, South Carolina for his degree, but has completed grade 8 already of the jazz piano, and he's working on his first album before he even leaves. So he's already connected. So before he even moves to Charleston, which he's planning to do in August, he already is connected with agents, an album. He's ahead of every other student. That's pretty amazing. And so he's already got a website, you know, and this is things we're doing. So it's about, you know, you have these opportunities to, even while you're saving money, to be making money. That's important. That's part of what we want to do, right? This is going to be your career. Learn how to make money in your career. Okay, and to be doing that while you're in school. Another thing I highly recommend is I used to be a Disney artist myself. When I was in college, and actually in high school, I was a performer at Disneyland. I was a musical theater performer in what was called the Kids of the Kingdom, and I played ragtime piano at Coke Corner on Main Street, USA at Disneyland Anaheim, and I also did Top 40 in Tomorrowland with a rock band, you know, and that was really great because I could work part-time, have medical benefits, and go to school. So I'm connected and can show my performer students, how do you get into Disneyland? What puts you ahead of all the hundreds of thousands of artists that apply to work there? And it comes back down to things of artist development that we teach here. You know, so you're already ahead of the game. That's what's really great, okay? And some things to consider. Okay, so, you know, again, I always want to empower students to be able to create an incredible career and to create passive income and to learn the secrets of how the music industry works. I get tired of hearing there's no money in music. I hear parents that say, you know, well, my son or my daughter loves music, but it's not practical. It's not a real job, you know? How disempowering is that? And, you know, then I'm like, oh, it's not a real job. Well, I worked as a university professor, and, you know, I worked 60 hours a week, and I was owned by the universities, and now I'm self-employed making the same amount of money. I only work 20-hour weeks, and I work out of my home. I don't have to drive freeways. I set my own hours. You know, which one do you want? You know, and so what and it's nobody's fault. Our U.S. system, you know, teaches us this. You know, from the time we're a child, we're taught that you go through elementary school, you go to junior high, you go to high school, then you must go to a university, then you get a 9-to-5 job. Okay, that's what we're taught. And that's why I understand that a lot of parents hear something like what I'm trying to show, and they're like, oh, I'm a little weary, that sounds a little strange, you know, can you really do that? Well, you can. And I want to, you know, show people that you can do this. Okay, so let's move on. We still have 2 more to go. One thing that I also feel is amazing about the London College of Music, approach is this opportunity while you're working on your degree to create international connections. One thing that I require is that all my students in a degree program have a working website portfolio. And that website is to industry specifications. A lot of people create their own websites but do not know how the industry works, and then those websites are actually working against them or they don't get seen. So I show the secrets of how do you create an industry viable website that will get you picked up by agents, that will give you international connections. If you do an album, how do you sell that album? How do you get on the radio? If you are looking for agents in musical theater or in acting, how do you do that? How do you make connections? How do you step up your game? Like I have a student right now, a wonderful lady, her name is Emily Verdict. You can look her up, emilyverdict.org. And this lady is doing everything. She's an actress. She is doing voiceover. She's doing musical theater. She's got a website. She's got her hands all in a lot of different pies, so to speak. And that gives her more options than maybe other people. Like if you go major in acting in a university, you're not necessarily going to learn voiceover work. You know, you might, if you major in musical theater, well, yes, you'll learn that. You'll take music and dance, but you maybe won't learn serious acting. Maybe, you want to be a comedian, but you're not going to have that ability to take classes in stand-up comedy. With London, with us, what we do, we're able to start getting you internationally connected pretty quickly. If you go to my website, which I will put at the end of this video, you will see a list in my gallery of students that I work with and what they're doing. And you will see their websites, and you will be able to see their albums or their movies and things they're doing. Okay, so it's important that we teach network marketing. That is very important to any artist, is how do you connect with the right people quickly. And you're going to make those international connections, and you have those opportunities, which is so great. One thing I do stress, and it's not a requirement of the University of London, but I require it, is that you study more than one language. So if you will be studying, if you're in music, you will be studying either Italian, French, or German with me. Specifically, if you are a classical artist, that is a must. You will learn those languages, and that offers, like if you're in opera, you need to know that. But if you're in composition and or even pop music, it helps. It helps to be able to speak more than one language. So, and I work with that with my students. Okay. So again, international connections is very, very important. And I show that this too with not only websites, but multimedia. Having your YouTube channel, having LinkedIn, having Instagram, having product, being on blogs, being on the radio, being on podcasts regularly. All of these start to work as a web to get you that international exposure. There is a lot of people say, I just want to be famous. Well, there is a way to do that. I had the pleasure when I was in high school to go to school with several artists that are pretty well known. I went to school with a gentleman, Scott Weiland, who was of the band Stone Temple Pilots, Grammy Award-winning artist. And, when we were in high school, we were very good friends, and he wanted to be a superstar. And he did specific things in high school, taking steps that got him quickly to where he wanted to be. And that's something we teach. Like, how do you do that? And if you follow specific steps, your chances of having this happen for you is much greater than if you don't. So we can't guarantee stardom, of course, but what we can guarantee is that there is a procedure that tends to work, and that's what we teach. Okay, let's move on. Okay, and last, college is such an important time in our lives, and we do develop lifelong friends. I I feel blessed from the education I had, even through the university system. I have friends from the period I was in school that went on to become enormous international talents. I went to school with Deborah Voigt, one of the best Metropolitan Opera stars in the world right now, and people like Megan Weston and Ram Barsamian, and these incredible artists that have dedicated their lives to art and are very, very well known. And one thing about London is you're going to make lifelong friends, people that care about you and care about your talent, and people that want to support, and a network of industry people that work as a unit to get you where you want to go. You're going to make lifelong friends, not only with, like, you know, one-on-one with me if I'm your teacher, but also, you know, radio producers, sound engineers, fashion designers, if you know that market for you for red carpet, different people in the industry. It becomes your extended family. How cool's that? So it's that feeling that you're supported through the whole process. Even though I've had incredible professors that are still close friends with me that I studied with in my education, there was also times where I felt like I was out on a limb and I wasn't being heard, nobody cared about me, and I have to admit I sunk into depression a couple of semesters because I just felt like I wasn't being supported. And what I've heard in feedback from a lot of the students that do the London colleges, they go, oh my gosh, I feel this great intimacy to be working on one-to-one. I feel very relaxed. I'm meeting really cool people. I feel like, you know, I meet other students that are doing what I'm doing, and, you know, and it's like a close-knit family. And also, I have found that even though I do not know all the professors over in London that are in the department, every person I've ever worked with, has been caring, helpful. You know, they want you to succeed. And you want that. You want professors and people behind you that are supporting your growth as an artist. And if it feels right for you and this is something you're interested in, you're welcome to call my school. The phone number is 562-394-2694, or you may visit me at jamesrspencer.com to find out more information. And I'm willing to help and talk to anybody. And if you happen to be in another state, and I can do my very best to try to connect you to another U.S. teacher for London College in your area. And if that is unviable for you, then there's also ways to do schooling through online teaching with myself or with some other teachers as well, which is another opportunity. Okay, thank you so much for joining me and listening to this video. I hope it has a lot of information that will be helpful in helping you choose the right decision for you within your music and arts education. This is James Spencer from Spencer Music and Artist Development. I'm signing off. Thank you so much. I wish all of you the greatest success in your creativity and in your careers. Thanks again.